Okay. Got the screwdriver. You need a T6 screwdriver. It doesn't matter what brand, but it's a T6 with the little spline type head on it. Go ahead and unscrew the center screw here first. And then pick that up and set that to the side. Make sure to keep track of all of your screws once they're coming out of. You don't need a mat like mine, but they are very helpful. Just having a different little refrigerator magnets sitting here in a row that you can stick things to can be very handy. Now we got to get rid of this spring right here. This spring's kind of a pain, so I recommend putting your thumb over where the spring's actually connected, getting underneath the spring with a pushing forward action to make the spring release. You can see the spring just completely released there. Then get your pair of tweezers and remove that and set that aside. Now, the next two things you need to take off are these two screws here. This is going to remove your hand, I don't even know what to call that, the piece of fabric to tighten up your hand. So unscrew that screw, unscrew this screw. By the way, they're all the same size screw, so you only need one screwdriver for this repair. Now this will slide out towards you, just like that. Now this is actually made out of two pieces here. This is made out of a latching mechanism piece, which is this small piece, and a main assembly, which is this piece. This piece right here pivots on this center point and goes from left to right for your adjustment. And the latching piece, it clicks onto these little teeny tiny notches here to hold it in place. So you're going to pick this out now too. Now wherever you do, I probably should have said this earlier, do not try to remove this joystick. Do not try to remove that joystick right now. There is a ribbon cable attached to the bottom of this, and if you damage that, you're not going to have touch capacity, capacitive touch on there anymore. So be patient. There's more screws to go now though. There's a screw here, here, and here. Go ahead and undo those three screws. I'm going to do this with you live time here because that's what we do. Again, making sure to separate the screws because you can already see some of these are self-tappers and some of these are actually threaded screws. So keeping them separated is important because they will not go into... they will not properly screw in two holes they won't go into. Except for two of them, but they're slightly different length, so you might accidentally puncture something. So I recommend using the right screwdriver. So with that done, I normally like grabbing the B button or the A button and just give this a little wiggle. It's going to fold to the outside of the controller. So always going to fold towards this ring. So you're going to fold it towards the ring, and you're going to be surprised with two more ribbon cables. There's going to be a little one right here and a big one right here. This big one's really, really easy. You can just take your fingernail or the pair of tweezers. I'll do this with a pair of tweezers so you can actually see. You can just take the pair of tweezers and just pop this one off. It is a press connection. It just presses there. Come on. So I normally do this with my fingernail because fingernail is just... I always feel like it's a bit easier for me to get a feel of what the connector's doing. Yeah, I'm just going to fingernail, sorry. Sorry to all of the hardcore electronic nerds out there that'd be like, no, 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 don't do that. Next thing you want to do is also flip up this little arm right here. Just like that, very lightly. Does not take a lot of force to flip them up. And again, wiggle back and forth and take that off. Your main board now is separated from the body. Now, I really don't recommend, if you have a thing of canned air, you can blow this out. I don't recommend getting in here with rubbing alcohol or anything else because you might mess with the capacitive touching ability of your joystick here. Sorry, of your trigger. Also, this ribbon cable does pull up, but only that much. It's so little movement. Do not go tugging on this. You will rip it. And when you rip it, it's not repairable. You might as well throw this away. You do not have the tools to fix this, and neither do I. So I'm just going to set that aside for now. And now we're just going to focus on our main board here. So we have we have some more ribbon cables we need to pay attention to, but we also have more screws. So first things first, we have 2 ribbon cables we should detach. This big one right here. Come on. And this small one right here. Do not go unseating them yet. So now we have 2 more screws. We have, well, not 3 screws. There's one here, here, and here. And these are very small screws, so be careful not to lose them. These hold on the buttons, as well as the ribbon cable that holds the joystick, that gives you your joystick capacitive touch. These hold that whole plastic symbol in the top of the circuit board in place. So do not lose them, because if you do, you're going to end up not too happy with yourself, because your circuit board will be not being held in place properly. You'll be very much not happy about that. So what I normally prefer to do is I lift it up a little bit. I give it a little wiggle, just to give myself a little bit of slack. I will start with this little ribbon cable here. I normally start with a very flat pair of tweezers for this one, because I really don't like using my fingernails on this. So this ribbon cable, and excuse me for zooming in here, this is going to be pretty bad, but I want to show you this properly. This has little wings on each side. So what you can do with a little pair of tweezers is just get on each side and just push up, and it'll release. I prefer doing that over grabbing one edge of my fingernail, because again, if you go too much from side to side, you can rip it. You want to try to pull these little ones straight out. These larger ones, though, you can just fold this forward in your hand just a little bit, and just give it just the tiniest little bit of force, and it'll pop right out, as long as it's unlatched, okay? Now, you're going to lay this face down like this. So your A and B button, which is here and here, are still there. You want to be careful, because these little ribbon cables are actually your capacitive touch for on top of your buttons as well. So be wary of that. This little rubber piece here in my hand is the little piece that actually pushes your A and B button. If this is dirty, you can set this to the side and carefully clean this with 99.9% isopropyl alcohol. So if you spilled a drink or something in your controller and these aren't working, you can clean these 2 pads on here very, very, very carefully. Oh, by the way, the joystick right now is attached just by this small ribbon cable for your capacitive touch. Be very wary and careful. And again, I know this controller is like really gross, because it's had a lot of work. Like, there's a lot of like grime in here, but we're not in here to scrub that out or mess with it, because all these ribbon cables are being held in with adhesive. So that's just the sticky edges of the adhesive oozing out from underneath, and I don't want to mess with that. We also don't want to chemically hurt or damage these cables anyway. So the only piece you can really clean right now is this rubber piece, but be sure to remove it from the piece before cleaning it, and make sure it's thoroughly dry. Like, just let it air dry for a little bit before placing it back in place. I'm going to set this off to the side. And now we are at our joystick module. Well, our main board for our joystick module. What I like to do before I start working on things with this is I will push my little levers back down. That way they're not all loosey-goosey. Some of these will have an extra connector, extra ribbon cable connector. Other ones will not. It's a very mixed bag. So I'm going to bring in my PCB clamp now and get this clamped up. This is a little helper. By the way, on the front side where you'd want to clean with isopropyl carefully are these two star pads. These two star pads are what that little gray rubber piece touch to actually make your buttons work. This little silver button right here is for your Steam VR home button. Also, your power button on your controller is the same button. Before clamping this, pay attention to all of the teeny tiny little SMD parts on this board. There's lots of teeny tiny components everywhere that are extremely difficult to see. And you don't want to knock one off, because if you do, your controller might not turn back on, or it might damage itself over time, mattering exactly what you knock off by accident. So just be wary of that. So for most people here, this is where the fun begins or the stress begins. It's always one of the two. I prefer to clamp this in my PCB clamp, not around components. And I only just lightly tighten this down. This corner of the board on that side of this side of this little processor here has nothing on it but your contact pads, like for your touch. That's it. So it's a nice place to just get a nice little hold on things for now. Let's zoom back in here real quick. Sorry I wasn't freehand zooming and stuff like that during the main teardown. It is very difficult to do this as one person. Filming and repairing is never fun. So at this point is where you would get in here with your soldering iron, and you would carefully start removing solder from these points. Do be wary though. There is a teeny tiny part here. C1 is in the way. R2 is in the way. R119 and R13 are all right next to these these three pads right here. You can accidentally unsolder one of these teeny tiny parts, and that will be an issue. Trust me, I learned the hard way. So just be aware of that. Now this would be the point where most people is going to come in here with, they're going to preheat this, come in here with their solder sucker, come in here and go, and clear out as much solder as they possibly can, and then come in here with the solder wick, clean up until the part falls off. That's fine and dandy and all. There's several ways of doing this. I prefer, even with the solder sucker, a semi-destructive approach. What I'll do is I'll come up here with a pair of clippers, and I will clip from the center part to the corner, and literally just split this into 4 sections, and just carefully get rid of like the metal connection points here, going to the potentiometer parts. And the reason why I do that is because it just makes it easier. Instead of like having to get every single one of these cleared out, I can take them out like just one little part at a time. But that is a repair where don't do it unless you got nerves of steel. So now the tutorial for using a solder sucker and solder wick are not going to be on this piece. I am going to cheat on this. I will make a tutorial some other time of how to solder, and it's not going to be this one because I will get 8,000 comments telling me I'm doing it wrong. So we're going to cheat, and I am going to use a Heiko automatic desoldering machine. These things are really, really nice, and they're automatic, but they're like $300. But I do enough repair work all the time. It's worth it for me. So this has a little vacuum pump in it. And I literally just have to touch it on each one of these parts, and it will just suck the solder right out, and this component should wobble right out. So I just got to give it a minute here to preheat. And we can go through, and I can remove the solder off of every single one of these points very quickly and easily. Start with this one that's far away from the other components. Now I'm not putting a lot of weight on there. I am letting the solder sucker do the work for me. I am just very lightly holding it in place until the solder gets soft and I feel the tip go down onto the through hole piece. I am not pushing extremely hard at all. And the reason why I'm not is because it doesn't need any force. It just needs to melt the solder and suck it off. Give it a little wiggle. I'll come back to that one. Now, I know some of these, it didn't suck out all the way. I mean, I can physically see that, and you also can physically see it on the camera, that several of these points were not sucked out at all. Like this one, I couldn't get that one still needs some work. So this is going to seem really stupid, but sometimes on these components, old solder doesn't flow good, and it also doesn't heat up very well. So on these places where I can't get the solder removed properly, and this goes the same when you're using solder sucker and the solder wick. Sometimes adding some fresh solder that has flux on it still, that has flux. I use flux core solder for most of my stuff. I'm just going to go through and hit these. See, even my main iron doesn't want to hit that. Just hit these with a little bit of fresh solder. With that little bit of flux that's in the flux core. And that'll kind of, I know it's the wrong term. Again, there's going to be like 100 people are going to yell at me for this. It's going to allow the solder to flow better out when I go back through and suck all this stuff back out. That is basically every single hole. Should be mostly desoldered now. This is going to be hot, so just watch your fingers. I do not want to burn myself on camera, so I'm going to be smart for once and actually use a little pair of pliers, and it's looking like it doesn't want to go. It's always this way. Again, desoldering these is not the funnest thing in the world. Trust me, it's not. Is my temperature too low? What's it set to? Yeah, my temperature's too low. This has a very bad carrying case for this desoldering gun. I guess we're going to have to do the destructive teardown. Didn't want to make a tutorial to do this, but I'm going to do it. So, problem is I don't want to heat the circuit board up a ton to get these parts off, which is why I'm doing this. So, just cut the corner, cut the corner, cut the corner, cut the corner. Cut the corner, I said, not the midsection. And now the little teeny tiny metal pieces that go around this will literally fall off. Get that out of there. Springs are going to go flying. Like I said, there's going to be 1,000 people very upset about what I just did. It is just how I do teardowns on components like this because I don't want to heat up the board, and I might not have the right parts or the equipment to do this easily without heating up the board a lot. And my personal opinion is, instead of heating up the board a lot, I'm just going to do it this way. Be semi-destructive. Be very careful not to stress out the through holes. But just going through and being aware of, I can literally just make it so I don't need to get all these solder points off of this at once, especially on such a large through hole piece. So this one looks like it's only this back corner holding the potentiometer in place. I cannot get it to let go of that part. Oh, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Yep, it's going to require me to add solder and get the piece out. See? Falls right out now. Dumbest thing in the world. It's going to be 1,000 people telling me I'm doing everything wrong. And I look forward to ignoring about 80% of it. Because someone that's more practiced at this than me will do a much better job than I do. Also, someone that literally does this type of work more often than I do will do it better than me, or have a different way of doing it that's better than mine. And that's all she wrote. There's now no longer parts on the backside. Joystick is gone. So I'm going to clean up these holes with the suck gun. Come on, you can do the suck. I know you can. And sometimes adding solder to get the rest of the solder into liquid is exactly what you need to do, even though it feels very wrong. And to me, that looks like every single one of those holes is cleared out. Looks about the same to you guys. So I am done with the suck gun. I'll set that aside and clean that out later. So now we can get rid of all our little teeny tiny bits that came from the old joystick module and get the new one in here. How nice is that? So thankfully the left and right joystick are exactly the same actual piece. They're just rotated differently on the board by each bit. So you just line up the holes and just push that in. Bump. There you go. That is in. Now what I like to do when I'm doing these little pieces like this, oh, that's the button, I need to clamp it. Or I told everybody to clamp it at, not where I want to clamp it at. So what I like to do is I like to make sure it's up where it should be. I'll place a finger underneath it. And I will take this back corner here by the processor first and just give it a little boop-a-da-boop. Get on there. Also, using a smaller soldering tip be a lot better for you. So just tack that and then make sure the piece is fully setted on all the corners. Um, Once you do that, you can go through and now just put a little bit of solder on every single one of these little parts. Watching the heat and how long you have the heat there, because the new joystick module is plastic and you don't want to melt it. Well, just like all of them, they have plastic in it and you don't want to melt the plastic, I should say. That joint is really bad. I'm not happy about that one. So that's about as good as you're going to get. You're probably going to do better than I did because, my heavens, did I fumble this one, and I've done way too many of these already. And I completely fumbled that repair. But anyways, let this cool for a couple minutes. You don't want to reassemble things and have, ribbon cables melt. They are thin. They are thin and made of plastic. So you don't want to melt them. So just be patient and wait for it to cool down. Okay. That's cooled down enough for me. I'll get this out of here. I'm going to get my button ring back in here. I'm going to, first off, again, if you want to clean this, if you want to clean these pads, if they're dirty with like soda or something right now, now's the time to do it with carefully, very carefully, with a cotton ball. And you just carefully, well, not cotton ball, cotton swab. Just carefully clean those spots. Come in here. You're going to place your circuit board down. There's a little teeny tiny alignment pins. There's one right there. There's basically one on every side here, as well as a screw hole. So you see that alignment slot there. Gotta get this lined up. There's another pin over here on this side. And it should just basically fall in. There it goes. This should just fall right into place. You shouldn't have to apply pressure. If you're having to apply pressure and hold it in place, it means it's not in place. Put your 3 screws in first. Now, my joystick here was not getting stick drift, but it was so loose, it was stupid, and it had a complete dead zone, which is why I'm replacing it. Not because it has stick drift. It just had a complete dead zone in it. It's getting very annoying. And honestly, replacing the joystick and having some time and patience is a lot better for me than spending a bunch of money on a new controller that I technically don't need. So now I'm going to flip up my little ribbon cable flippies. Place it here. This first one goes. I'll get the tweezers in here for this. Also, be careful if your tweezers are pointy. Always come in by the side of these and not like, try not to come in on an angle on them. You don't want to puncture a hole or poke a hole through a ribbon cable either. They are delicate. More delicate than flour. They are delicate correlation of a butterfly or moth wings. Really don't want to touch it, because then they can't fly. You just make sure it's fully seated, and you flip down your lever. That is now locked in place. I will place the joystick head onto the joystick module. And I take this ribbon cable and place this in place now. I need to flip up that lever again. My finger must have pushed it down. Just carefully grabbing it by like where the wings are, pulling it back, getting it in there and pushing it forward, flipping down the lever. Just be very careful with these levers. You can break them quite easily, especially this one. This one right here, it likes being a butt. It likes absolutely breaking all the time. And it's probably the worst connector inside this controller, to be bluntly honest. I hate it. I hate this. This one right here is literally the worst. It breaks. This little arm right here breaks off so easy. It's stupid. I've had to replace them. Okay, now we get our actual controller back in here. We're going to zoom back out. I'm going to try to get a focus down inside of this. So the first cable I usually attach is for your trigger pad, for your haptics on that. You can clean the flux off if you like. Mine is like no clean, so I really don't care. Plus, this controller will probably start going bad here soon because the side track pads are going bad on it. So I'm going to take the ribbon cable. Oh. This one's always fun, so you gotta like finagle everything with two hands. And I'm trying to do this so you guys can see and not so much so I can see. I have to use my fingers. Come on. Give me the end of the ribbon cable. Fine. We'll do it this way. I do apologize for my hands not working properly. Ugh. There we go. I got that wrangled in there. You're probably not going to have that awkward of a time. I've worked with my hands for a very long time, and it's getting hard to move them. So I'm going to carefully take this ribbon, this big ribbon, and we're going to kind of angle our board, pull up that teeny tiny little bit of slack we have, and it's going to be very difficult to show, but you're just going to have to like get your finger in here and push that little booger back in place. It is a connector, so you just get to one corner kind of lined up, and then you can kind of peel it across and push it in. Man, my fingers don't want to work anymore. We got it. Hey, I got it. Snapped right in. Make sure it's pushed all the way down on both sides. As you can see in there, it is pushed down all the way. We can now hinge this down, make sure this ribbon cable goes back down in here properly. We don't want to pinch it. That's why I don't like bending it forward when I'm working on it. Rotating it forward like this because it doesn't want to fold back down into the casing like it was once you do that. You might need to get your tweezers in there and give it a little bit of persuasion. So this will only go in one way really, so just give it a little, be patient, don't force it. Get some wiggle diggles back and forth, and it will just fall into place. Do not force it down into place. You will pinch a cable and kill it. Okay, Now for our small self-tapper screws. Again, 3 of them. The positioning where you start these don't really matter. Doesn't matter on really any of the screws in this thing. As long as the right screw is going to the right place, it doesn't matter too much. I need to magnetize this screwdriver. Screws in here. And then get this last screw in here. Careful not to drop the screw into the controller or you're just going to really hate yourself. It shouldn't hurt anything as long as the controller stays turned off during the time it's in there. But yeah, you're not gonna like the next however long it takes you to get the screw back out. I do not have a magnet, so my apologies for fumbling with the screws. It's probably the best tutorial I've actually recorded so far. It's an absolute mockery. So there's that done. Now we want to place our little swing arm in with our locking mechanism. So the locking mechanism goes in underneath the swing arm. I like placing the swing arm in first, grabbing the 2 screw holes in the top of this, and just kind of rotating it into place. Just like that. Now I will put the centerpiece on. You notice I am doing this in kind of reverse order. I'm putting the centerpiece in first and not putting the arm strap back on yet. Because I'm doing something here that will make your life a little bit easier. Or hopefully it will make your life easier. If not, it's just going to make it more of a pain. That's how repair work is. Some people have extremely easy difficulty, an easy time doing some things, and other people really struggle with certain aspects. So I'm just going to get that close. Get a screw in that first hole. Get this started. I'm not going to tighten that down until I get this second hole aligned and get the second screw started. I'll tighten this one down first. Again, you're only screwing into plastic with you're only screwing into plastic with these 2, so just snug them. They don't need to be the tightest thing in the world. So the reason why we did this first is because this spring right here is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. So, because it's a nightmare, this is going to be hard to see. That's probably what's going to make it a nightmare for this tutorial. So your upper arm piece, I'm going to call this one the upper. Sorry, I'm going to call this one the upper, right here, and this one the lower. Your upper arm, the top part of the spring, goes towards the back of the controller. That makes sense. It needs to go in there like that. See how that is? This upper arm goes under the piece we just screwed in. This lower arm gets folded down. Again, this is where I really don't like this, and this is where the tweezers really come in handy. You have to push this down, and then you have to push it up into this little notch piece right here. You literally have to push it up behind that little piece there. And this is always a pain. See? I missed and it spun. So my finger was over it so it didn't go flying. I have had semi-success doing it the opposite way, but not that often. So if I come in from here, Put this here, get this little piece down in there first. But then the challenge comes in of holding it down with my fingernail and actually stretching the whole spring over this assembly. To go into place. And you can see it jumped anyways because the spring was too much. So this is just like literally, the spring is the worst part. And it bends the end of your tweezers, by the way. So rip your $9 set of tweezers. This spring is very powerful. There we go. I'll take my larger tweezers now. Make sure it's pushed and seated down behind that. We are good to go there. We are now going to put in our piezoelectric dish again. Again, this one I prefer like a upper approach. I will get the ribbon cable started. I'm just going to start with a pair of tweezers. No, let me get the 45-degree angle tweezers. The ones I didn't bend. So push that down in there. Lock it down. Get it in here. Take this. Center it in the circle. Push it back down. That will now no longer move. Now we just take our top cover. We take this ribbon cable. And we just stick it into... It looks like there's 2 slots in this piece, but there's only one. It's just this front one right here. Just put it in there and just give it a little push down and a little wiggle back and forth to get it started. Then you can get your tweezers on each side of this, and you don't even tweeze it. You just set it on each little side wing of the ribbon and just give it a little... There you go. Push down all the way. You can see that there's no gold showing or anything else like that, so that means it's fully seated. You fold this forward and you just press it down in, and it'll snap back into place. And now your controller is fixed. If you need any other assistance or you want better picture details, iFixit.com has a detailed teardown on this, but not really a repair for the joystick. They do sell the whole main board. If you don't want to deal with soldering, they actually sell the whole main board. And I think there's a few other companies out there that also sell the whole main board, but the repair is really up to you what you want to do. So outside of that, if you break anything or need help or assistance, I am not going to help with this. I'm just giving a basic tutorial of what needs done, even though I completely botched doing it. So this, just kind of do this at your own risk, and if you're comfortable with doing it. It's not for the faint of heart unless you really have nothing to lose by messing up the controller. If you know what you're doing, absolutely go for it. It's really easy to do. It's only a couple minutes. It's not going to be an hour long like it took me, because, again, I don't know why this one took me so long, other than the fact I'm probably had way too many small parts by hand this week, and my hands just don't want to work. But anyways, I will see you all in the next Midnight Tech video. Bye-bye.